results. Book now at WION.com.
Vielleicht nur als 5%.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Raisha Sehgal. On the show tonight, France is bracing for fresh political turmoil after Prime Minister François Bayrou called for a confidence vote on September 8th. Also on the show, US President Donald Trump has authorized specialized National Guard units as he threatens to expand efforts to other cities, especially Democrat-ruled cities. We'll get you the complete report on Race to Power tonight. First up, France is on the edge of yet another political crisis. Prime Minister François Bayrou has called for a confidence vote. His minority government now faces an existential test on the floor of National Assembly. Bayrou's confidence vote can be a gamble that can land either way, but the sentiment from the major political forces suggests that it is likely to end bad for the French Prime Minister. Major opposition parties have already announced to vote out Bayrou. The political showdown is triggered by Bayrou's budget cut proposal. To cut down on budget deficit, the French Prime Minister announced plans for almost 44 billion euros in budget cuts. Most parties oppose the move, but Bayrou says this is a decisive moment for France.
Un danger immédiat pèse sur nous.
An immediate danger weighs on us, which we have to face, not tomorrow or the day after, but today, without any kind of delay, without which the future will be taken from us and the present harshly and heavily worsened. Our country is in danger because we are at risk of over-indebtedness.
Durement et lourdement aggravé.
French Prime Minister says he is ready to take the fall if it comes to that, and the numbers show that he might as well be out of job. Jordan Bardella of National Rally, Unbowed France, Green Party and centre-left Socialist all have vowed to vote out the government. Bayrou lacks the numbers in National Assembly. His government is already functioning in minority. To pass the confidence test, he needs support of at least 76 members. French Prime Minister can survive if some opposition parties walk out or 76 members from opposition benches save the day for him. This is not the first time that the French government is on the verge of a collapse. Bayrou's predecessor, Barnier, was also removed from office following a no-confidence vote. Now, since President Macron's snap election gamble backfired last year, France has seen 3 prime ministers. With Bayrou's high-stakes confidence move, France is heading for yet another political showdown.
Le budget des armées en 2017 était...
US President Donald Trump is facing flack on his so-called offensive against crime. Trump is threatening multiple Democrat-ruled cities with National Guard troops deployment. National Guards are already patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. Trump says that the next will be Chicago, but unlike D.C., Chicago National Guards come under state government. In a fresh offensive, Illinois governor called Trump a wannabe dictator. Trump claims the crime in Democrat-run cities is on the rise. This, according to him, requires deployment of National Guards, a move that would need him to trigger special presidential powers. Responding to allegation by the Illinois governor, Trump said he is not a dictator.
He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
According to police data, violent crime in Chicago have dropped majorly in the first half of 2025, representing the steepest decline in over a decade. Shootings and homicides are down more than 30% in the first half of the year compared to the same time last year, and total violent crime dropped by over 22%. Taking to social media platform X, former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton warned that her prediction in 2024 of a militarized America under Trump's second term has now come true. Clinton shared images of a September 2024 book passage and current headlines reporting National Guard deployment in Washington, D.C. and plans for Chicago. Clinton said, and I quote, "Trump is following a classic authoritarian playbook. It's up to state and local governments to push back on this tyranny while it's still possible," unquote. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is now joining us from New York. Hi, Susan. Get us up to speed with allegations that Trump is perhaps militarizing America, but right now he's only targeting Democrat-led cities.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's mostly these Democrat-run cities that have very high crime rates. And while statistics show that in some cities crime has decreased, the problem with that is crime is so rampant. If we talk about Chicago, for example, Chicago's South Side is notorious. It's so rampant that when you see these numbers and a decrease in crime, it doesn't necessarily mean that the crime issue has been solved. And President Trump at this point thinks that he has a mandate from the American people because one of the platforms that he ran on was law and order and to help with crimes in many cities. He was asked whether or not he would also deploy National Guards and try to crack down on red cities. His response was that he would do it if needed. But as for now, it seems like these blue-run cities are the ones with the highest crime rates. And when we look at the statistics, it is New York, Chicago, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., which is the only place right now where National Guards are being deployed. These are all run by Democrats. So by doing so, he puts not only pressure on state and local governments to do something about the crime rates, but he also creates this national dialogue. But on the other hand, it also creates backlash because, first of all, these governments don't want to be put on the spot. They don't want to appear in front of the people that they're not doing enough on crime and that there has to be some kind of federal intervention. And on the other hand, it's right. As we've seen during his first term, all through the campaign, they talk a lot about him being a dictator, a fascist, and whatnot. So the terminology is nothing new, but nonetheless, we'll have to see how much of it is effective at the end of the day. But for now, this is what he thinks is the best path forward.
Right, Susan. He also falsely claimed that there are no crime in red states. But coming to the point you made there that he is targeting the blue cities right now, Baltimore, Illinois. How are the U.S. cities reacting to Trump's federal show of force at this point of time?
Yeah, so when you talk to the citizens, they, of course, they welcome anything that can be done with them feeling safe. But this has only been in Washington, D.C., and we've only talked about the residents of Washington, D.C. So it hasn't really happened in any other state for us to see the reaction of the people. But we do see the pushback coming from Democrats. As with anything else, there has to be a middle ground ultimately where the American public are going to be comfortable with. I mean, we saw that with the immigration crackdowns. They don't want illegal immigration, but how, in what manner that illegal immigration is tackled and to what extent it goes, that's where, questions arise. So, like I said, he hasn't done it. He's only threatened to do it. And that's why we're only hearing pushback from government officials.
Right, Susan. Thanks for getting us the latest from New York here on Race to Power. All right, Israeli Prime Minister is facing increased pressure from not just his opponents, but the family members of hostages. The people who faced the worst of Hamas called for a national day of struggle in Israel. They are demanding immediate release of hostages. On the other hand, Israeli tanks have amassed on the Gaza border as a part of Netanyahu's Gaza City occupation plan, which is set into motion. But as Israeli forces carry out operations in the ruins of Gaza, the people back home are concerned.
Today is a day of resistance, calling the Israeli government to seal the deal that's now on the table and to bring all the hostages home and to end the war in Gaza. The majority of the Israeli people want the end of the suffering of the hostages and the people in Gaza.
On the National Day of Struggle, demonstrators came out on the streets of Tel Aviv, blocking major road and holding banners that read, "Hostage deal now." Demonstrations and rallies have been planned throughout the day in various parts across Israel. Demonstrators will also send their messages to the Prime Minister and the IDF Chief of Staff. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened his security cabinet meet. Military offensive in Gaza is likely to be discussed, but according to the reports, there will also be perhaps no discussions on temporary ceasefire in Gaza. Remember, Hamas has already accepted a phased hostage release proposal. It is, however, not clear if that proposal will be on the table in the security cabinet meet. But families of the hostages are out on the streets demanding Netanyahu to accept the deal.
We, the people, demand you prioritize the hostages, go back to the negotiation table. There's a good deal on the table. It's something we could work with. It's something we could get a deal done to bring all the hostages back.
Humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to worsen. According to the press release issued by Palestinian Authority, only 467 aid trucks entered Gaza in last 5 days out of over 3,000 expected. This is only 15% of expected aid going through. US President Donald Trump's recent statement has sparked some hope. From the Oval Office, Trump claimed that there are serious diplomatic push underway to try to get all this to end. But between diplomacy and war and what's happening on the ground, the future of Gaza and hostages hangs in balance. In other news, Hezbollah has asserted that it would not give up weapons before Israel withdraws from Lebanon. Hezbollah's chief, Naim Qassem, doubled down on his refusal to give up the group's weapons ahead of talks between Lebanese officials and visiting US envoys after Lebanon's government opted to disarm the Iran-backed group. In a televised address, Qassem said that Hezbollah would not give up the weapons that protect from attack, calling these weapons our soul, our honor, our land, our dignity, our children's future. Take a listen.
We will not abandon the weapon that has honored us, that protects us from our enemy. We will not allow Israel to roam freely in our country, kill the resistance fighters, and seize the south. The weapons are our souls, honor, land, dignity, and the future of our children.
He also outlined his conditions, which include Israel first leaving Lebanon, stopping its attacks, releasing Lebanese prisoners, and allowing Lebanon to start the reconstruction procedure in areas destroyed during the 14-month Israel-Hezbollah war. Lebanon's government this month tasked the army with drawing up a plan to disarm Hezbollah by the end of the year. Hezbollah was the only faction that kept its weapons after Lebanon's 1975-1990 civil war, doing so in the name of resistance against Israel, and has repeatedly rejected the decision. The move came after the balance of power in Lebanon shifted following more than a year of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah that left the group majorly weakened. On Monday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel was ready to back Lebanon's efforts to disarm Hezbollah. Netanyahu said if Beirut takes the required steps to disarm Hezbollah, then Israel will respond with reciprocal measures, including a phased pullout of its troops.
Come back in a few minutes. We're coming back in a few minutes.
Rashtriya Swamsevak Sangh, the organization that claims to be world's biggest NGO, is set to complete 100 years of existence. In the lead-up to its 100th anniversary in October, RSS has scheduled series of events highlighting its achievements and the road ahead. RSS is hosting a 3-day lecture series called 100 Years of Sangh's Journey. Its chief, Mohan Bhagwat, delivered the opening remarks. He said RSS is widely discussed, but there is a lack of information about the organization. Over 1,300 people have been invited in the event hosted in New Delhi. The lecture series will conclude on 28th of August. RSS was established in 1925 on the occasion of Vijayadashmi, the day that marks the victory of Hindu deity Ram over Ravan. Keshav laid the foundation stone of the organization in India's Nagpur. RSS plans to organize 1,500 to 1,600 Hindu conferences across India throughout the year. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also praised the organization for its works. In his Independence Day address, Prime Minister Modi called it the world's largest NGO and highlighted its contribution in last 100 years.
सेवा, समर्पण, संगठन और अप्रतिम अनुशासन ये जिसकी पहचान रही है, ऐसा राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ दुनिया का ये सबसे बड़ा एनजीओ है। एक प्रकार से 100 साल का उसका समर्पण का इतिहास है। आज लाल किले की प्राचीर से 100 साल की इस राष्ट्र सेवा की यात्रा में योगदान करने वाले सभी स्वयंसेवकों को आदरपूर्वक स्मरण करता हूं।
All right, Karnataka's Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar is facing the heat for singing RSS anthem inside the State Assembly. His act triggered speculation of him getting close to the Bharatiya Janata Party. Congress leader has now issued an apology seeking forgiveness and asserting his loyalty to Congress. Shivakumar said he was born a congressman, will die a congressman.
I named my theatre after Indira Gandhi when I was a student leader. Indira Gandhi. My commitment to the family is undoubted.
The Deputy Chief Minister insists he has no intention of joining the BJP. He also pointed to his past suffering, claiming the BJP jailed him in Tihar and tortured him. The controversy comes at a delicate time for the Congress as it continues to attack Prime Minister Modi for his frequent references of the RSS. D.K. Shivakumar was the face of Congress's 2023 election campaign in Karnataka, but when the party got the victory, he was sidelined and veteran leader Siddaramaiah was made party's chief minister face. This triggered speculations that Shivakumar was disgruntled and unhappy. Moving on, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has unveiled his party's plan to tackle illegal migration. At a media conference in the UK, Farage outlined what he called a 5-year emergency program of mass deportations and major changes to Britain's human rights framework.
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route.
Dramatic pledges and unprecedented measures against illegal immigrants formed the crux of Farage's promises and plans as he warned of a threat to public order if the small boats issue is not resolved soon. Farage termed the mood around the country a mix of total despair and rising anger. His mass deportation proposals raise a strong anti-migrant pitch. Under a plan called Operation Restoring Justice, Farage said reform would leave the European Convention on Human Rights no ifs, no buts. The 1998 Human Rights Act would be replaced with a British Bill of Rights, applying only to citizens and legal residents. Migrants arriving illegally would be detained immediately in converted military bases with capacity for 24,000 people. Aid visas and sanctions would be used as leverage to ensure countries like Rwanda and Albania accept deportees. Asylum seekers would be offered £2,500 to leave voluntarily. Farage termed the entry of illegal migrants an invasion that represents a national security threat. In his pointing out big issues like housing shortage and others, he struck a distinctly xenophobic tone as well.
Who are the priorities for housing, for benefits, for any of these things? Is it British-born people or is it people swanning in from all over the world? And we are pro-British in this country having more rights than those that have recently come.
The government has dismissed the proposals as back of the fact-packed plans. Critics say both the proposals and the £10 million price tags are unrealistic. Reform's hardline plan comes amid rising tensions, recent demonstrations at asylum hotels and legal challenges over their use have added to the political pressure. Well, the UK currently approves nearly half of all initial asylum claims, with many more granted on appeal. Farage now says only sweeping changes and mass deportations can stop the crossings, despite having only 4 MPs. And his polls are right now putting reform close to 30% support. Bolivia's right-wing presidential hopeful and former Bolivian president Jorge Corrego has vowed to scrap billion-dollar lithium extraction deal struck by the outgoing government with Russia and China if he comes to power. Bolivia is set to undergo its second round of elections. The future of Bolivia's lithium reserves, some of the largest in the world and important for powering smartphones and electric vehicles, is a key issue in the election campaign. Now, the so-called lithium triangle stretching across Bolivia, Chile and Argentina holds about 60% of the world's lithium reserves. According to the US Geological Survey, in Bolivia, most of the lithium remains untapped beneath the Salar de Uyuni, a vast salt flat 3,600 meters above sea level. It is also one of the country's top tourist attractions. In 2023 and 2024, the outgoing Bolivian president, Luis Arce's government signed deals with Russia's Uranium One and China's CBC to extract lithium from the salt pan. Worth a combined $2 billion, the deals were intended to help Bolivia catch up in the race to mine the mineral, but they were blocked in Congress by infighting in the ruling party. Now, presidential hopeful Jorge Corrego has pledged that if elected, he will cancel existing agreements related to the deployment of Bolivia's vast lithium reserves and will not acknowledge their legitimacy. He has also stated his intention to introduce new legislation on mineral resources that would eliminate any form of favoritism to ramp up production that has lagged under nearly 2 decades of state control. Corrego also said that he would seek to thaw long, frosty ties with Washington after years of Bolivia's alignment with China, Iran and Russia. However, he emphasized a pragmatic approach towards this.
We don't recognize outgoing President Luis Arce's contracts and everything they have done. Let's stop them. They won't be approved, and Congress will not approve the contracts. Bolivia is no longer a country where roads and industrial factories are awarded to friends behind closed doors. And in the case of lithium behind the back of Potosi, never again.
Curigo, who came second in the first round of Bolivia's August 17th presidential election with 26.7% of vote share, now finds himself locked in a race with center-right Senator Rodrigo Paz, who won 32% of the votes. Curigo and Paz are now due to face off in a second round for the presidency on October 19th. Tensions are rising in Venezuela as the United States steps up pressure on President Nicolas Maduro. 3 U.S. Navy warships are heading towards the country's coast, while Venezuela has deployed 15,000 troops along its border with Colombia. But 1 week after the news of U.S. Navy destroyers to arrive off Venezuela's coast, uncertainty reigns among Venezuelans who don't know what to believe anymore. Some say it all seems like a political theater that obscures more pressing concerns. In order to fight drug trafficking, Venezuelan government sent troops to Soleu and Táchira states. Officials claim they have already seized 53 tons of drugs this year. They are cracking down on cartels operating in the border region as well. U.S. says Maduro and senior officials, including Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello, ran a cocaine trafficking network known as the Cartel de los Soles. Washington has even doubled its bounty on Maduro's arrest to $50 million. Earlier in the capital, Caracas, the government has launched a militia sign-up drive. The drive urged citizens to defend the country against what Maduro calls foreign aggression. Opposition leaders and on the other side to see the U.S. show of force as a sign to end the rule of Maduro. And with that, we slip into a very short break. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes, and millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you